This podcast was originally recorded on the Open Source Growth Podcast with Denny. Dean is a director of Denny Digital, an inbound marketing agency based in Melbourne, specializing in strategies tailored to SaaS companies and online brands. And it's been a privilege working closely with Dean and his brilliant team to discover new ways of strengthening the Arcanys message these past few months. For a little background, Arcanys has been listed as one of the best IT workplaces in the Philippines and a great place to work in 2023. Although having Arcanys on this list has been unexpected, I personally have not been able to talk much about this recognition until now, and how we were able to arrive at this point as a company, and how all our decisions and initiatives are in its foundations significantly employee-centric. So it was great to have this conversation with Dean, who, like I said, runs Denny with members from all around the world, but with a strong remote-first culture and mentality. It kind of put me back to the very early days of Arcanys and how that initial setup influenced how we operate today. I share all of that and some personal stories in this podcast. So enough with my rambling. I hope you'll find this episode with Dean insightful, and I hope to have you around on my next podcast.
Welcome to Open Source Growth, your number one destination for growing your software company through the power of direct response advertising, Facebook advertising, and so much more. And in today's episode, I have the exceptional gift of having a long-standing client. I would consider not just a client, but also a friend of mine on the podcast by the name of Frederic Joye. Fred is one of the most inspiring co-founders I have ever met when it comes to building a software development agency that scales. Fred's been in the game for over 20 years. He's been working in IT and operational projects in the finance and software industry in Switzerland before arriving at an epiphany with his best friend Alan to co-found Arcanys in 2010. After 20 years of experience in the industry, Fred is now leading the worldwide sales and marketing efforts of Arcanys, and they have been recently crowned, and I want you to correct me on this, Fred, the number one workplace in the Philippines, or what is it exactly?
Yeah, number 26 on the list of the best IT BPM workplaces in the Philippines.
Yeah. Number 26, and as we all know, if you're building a SaaS product here, we know that everyone is offshoring their shit to the Philippines. So to rank number 26, how many IT BPM firms are there? Actually, before we start, what is BPM for those who aren't familiar with the term?
So hi, Dean. Thanks for having me. I'm also super happy to do this with you.
Yep.
So BPM is business process management outsourcing, I think the way they say it.
Yeah.
So
okay.
IT and BPM. Yeah.
Amazing. And now, from the last time you checked, how many firms are offering, outsourced software development in the Philippines?
I don't know. I don't know. I know a lot. So if we look at all the BPO, the BPOs as we call them, so some can be IT related, some others are more customer centric or technical support.
Mm-hmm.
But it's thousands. I mean, it's employing, I think, close to 10% of. It's creating 10% of the GDP of the country. So it's a really huge industry, and so it's millions of jobs. But I don't have the numbers.
Yeah, well, you certainly have some numbers. So what you're telling me that if you have 10 Philippines people in a room, 1 out of 10 of them is likely to be working in this situation based on everyone is developing the same amount of GDP. Yeah.
Well, a bit less, exactly. A bit less because it's higher paying jobs, right? Compared to the rest of what Filipinos are earning. So all these BPOs are usually paying a bit more than the regular jobs in the Philippines. So I would say it's slightly less than 10% of the population, but it represents about 10% of the GDP. Yeah.
That's amazing. So what you're telling me is that because in Australia and in the Western world, outsourcing has had a dirty name in the past. They've always thought of like, let's cut costs and stuff like that and pay and experience the joys of the arbitrage of charging a whole lot for a service and then finding someone in a third world country to do it cheaply. But what you're telling us is that by engaging BPO services, you're able to really increase like that average wage for the people in that country. Is that what's going on?
Absolutely. Yeah. So
That's so cool.
yeah.
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 Wow.
So, for example, a software engineer in the Philippines earns at least 10 times the minimum wage. Maybe not at least, but close to 10 times the minimum wage in the Philippines, right? So that's the highest paying job, for example, in the Philippines on average is a software engineer. So they are earning a lot more than, I don't know, the people who are working in supermarkets, without mentioning also all the the economy that is not counted, right? Like these small jobs and things like that. So yeah.
Wow, that is phenomenal. I think it's really interesting to see that, and I'm a huge advocate for supporting these BPO firms like yourselves in the Philippines, because at the end of the day, if you're able to lift the quality of life for people who have been for a significant amount of time wildly disadvantaged, like, it's just so empowering to be able to do this. And I think that if we start looking at it from a humanitarian perspective as well, that the work that these BPO firms are doing, it's just amazing. Like, you are literally, you're really elevating countries and turning them into destinations where business really thrives, and these wildly educated and widely skilled people can thrive in the setup of a great company. And that's one thing, guys, one thing I've noticed about Arcanys when we've worked with you guys for the better part of 5 to 6 months now, is that Arcanys, unlike any other software development company, has really nailed employee culture. Like, I don't know anyone who has got so many team. Like, talk about your engagement stats, like, here, Fred, because I know you guys have done a huge body of work on this.
Yeah, so I mean, the main stat that we have is that we have a low attrition rate in the industry. So I think it's well above 20% in general, both in Australia and the Philippines is even higher actually for software engineers. If we look at the BPO in general, it can go close to 100% per year.
Yeah,
but that's not our business, right? But at Arcanys, we're like maybe slightly below 10% of attrition per year. So we're at least half of what other companies are experiencing. And that's because we've put emphasis on the on the culture, as you said, and trying to make sure that people feel really great working with us. So it's not just the perks, it's and the salary. It's also like we choose who we work with. Like our clients, we put as much effort selecting our clients as they put efforts in selecting us. And one of the reasons is we want to make sure that our developers are working on projects that make them grow as an engineer and as people, obviously, preferably as well. But that's how we see it, right? If people like what they're doing, they're interested, and then they don't see this as a dead end for their career moving forward, because we know that probably they won't, stay their whole life at Arcanys. At least they have some step up to have a better life after that. And actually, a lot of people that leave the company, they don't leave for another company in the Philippines, but they go abroad. They go to Singapore or Australia, New Zealand. Some of them left for Canada as well. And so that's a huge, I think, stepping stone for them.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And do you hear back from any of those developers that decide to head off to Canada or
so there's people like in Singapore, if I'm traveling, there's one I became really good friends with, so I would have dinner with him. Or when I'm in Australia, visit my clients, or New Zealand, I have a few that are like, hey, you're around, Fred, I don't always have the time to see them, but they reach out. And because they also keep their friends at Arcanys. So we are kind of updated, Alan and I, with what's going on with other people that we had been working with in the past. So yeah.
That's so cool, and that's so cool. Like, imagine that as a young developer, you get a job at Arcanys, you develop a great set of skills, you work on tip of the spear projects with the biggest names in the Australian SaaS landscape, and also some of these massive names around the globe. Like, talk about some of the global clients that you're working with. Like, what are a few of the names? I keep on forgetting. Like, is it
Yeah.
Garnier and a few other big
Sorry.
players? Who are the big players that you're
So
currently?
we've worked, with some big companies like GE or Honda or what else, L'Oreal. But so that was in the past. We
Yep.
finished those projects with them. Now we're mostly looking at working with, like entrepreneurs or small to medium businesses where we can really have more of an impact. I mean, because we are impact driven, where we want to also give purpose to our employees and not just be numbers in teams, right? And so that's why we really want to work with companies that are medium. Some of them are later scale ups, if you want. So it's still sizable enough so they can have a sizable team with us, but that they're still part of a team that's a human size as well. And I think that helps them identify themselves to the companies they're working with, and it's just nicer to work in a smaller business than just a huge corporation that's maybe a little less personal, but still interesting to work with.
Yeah, there's a real sweet spot with, being in the services businesses, like with the businesses that you support and you serve. And like I've noticed that with my own marketing team and the clients that we work with, when it's just like a single marketing person in the company, or you're working directly with the founder, often it can be a little us and them. But when you're part of like a fabric of a marketing team and you come in there and you support, whether it's from an advisory perspective as a CMO, or if you're just providing them with a traffic service, it's just so much more fulfilling. And I'm sure that's how your developers feel, because from the sounds of things, with a lot of the clients that you work with, and obviously I know because I help you with a lot of this stuff too, right? Is that you want these developers to come in, like 2 or 3 developers, to be inserted as amongst the fabric of an already strong tech team, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Wow, it's so cool. Like, so like, because here's the thing, guys, to get to be qualified as a great place to work in the Philippines, like you say 26 or 27, it may not sound that impressive, but it's damn right impressive. Like the amount of work that Arcanys has had to go through to get to that stage. Actually, that's an interesting thing we could talk about. How did you arrive at winning or placing in that award? Like it's impressive, Fred. How did you get there? What was the process?
So to get placed there, it wasn't that hard. We just sent a survey to the employees, and they responded to so it's anonymous and it's handled by Place to Work, right? And actually, I have this
The award. Yes.
So that's number 26.
Hey, number 26 in the Philippines. Let's go.
So so we sent a survey, and then they responded to I don't know how many questions, and then it's compared to other companies that have responded, and then they rank you based on the answers, right? So it covers different topics, and we actually received the results, so we can keep on improving. But so that's kind of like the easy part, is sending a survey and then having people respond to it. But it took years for us to really build that culture, and we still doing it, right? We try to improve every year on things. So it started small, because when we started 13 years ago, we didn't have the means that we had today. We basically started with 0 clients.
Yeah, let's get to it. Let's start. Hang on. Before we even go there, so you were let's even go a step back before you even thought about partnering with Alan and all the crazy stuff. Like, so let's talk about Because you would have been in your early 20s when you were in the banking world, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I started in insurance actually. So I did really the
you're an
like
insurance guy.
yeah, yeah, well, but I didn't sell insurance. But yes, I'm an
Ah.
insurance guy. And so actually before starting Arcanys, I never sold anything. Not even my used phones. So yeah, I was very bad in school, and I tried university, and I was
What do you
also
say?
very bad. So at some point my parents kicked me out and said, "Hey Fred, how about try to get a life and do something." So then I got an internship in an insurance company after applying to 100 companies or so, and then
Persistence.
uh,
Persistence. Yep. Yep.
yeah, well, but then I got helped by a friend of mine who knew the chairman of the company. So I have no, my my resume had absolutely nothing for me. But so I got this internship, and which was supposed to be for 1 year for me to be able to join the university again, because I got kicked out from one faculty, but I wanted to join another one, and this one required me to have at least 1 year of professional experience. So I did 3-4 months of like wherever they put me, because they didn't really know where to put me actually.
Yep.
It's like, oh, the boss is telling you to take this one and then just do whatever. So I got put in a team where I was really interested, where we had to solve process issues for one of the departments.
Yep.
And the department I was in was the department of internal outsourcing, if you want. If any department had problems, they would call in these people to actually do business process outsourcing to this department with people to do it. So I got put in one of these teams, and I got really fascinated by what we had to do. So
Wow.
without knowing it, I took the lead of that team of, I don't know, 4 or 5 people. And then 3 months after, 4 months after, my boss came to me and is like, Fred, we can't have a trainee being a manager. That's not okay. So and I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna get fired or something. And they're like, so how about we give you an actual job and you become an employee? And so, of course, I was super happy, and so that's how it started. I worked at that company for 5 years, so I did all these out insourcing kind of things.
Yep.
And then I also became the deputy manager of this department after 5 years with 120 people or something like that to look after. And I was working a lot with providers from different kinds of IT,
Yep.
non-IT providers, because I was a purchasing head of, not head, but like one of the purchasers for the company, and also so dealing with all the contracts and RFQs and things like that. Plus, I got also involved in a migration project of their software that was running on mainframes. So, and then there we
Wow.
hired a lot of
That's old school.
Indians,
Yeah.
Tata Consulting Group, to do the work. And so I was involved in these projects as a young professional. I don't know, until 25. I worked until 25 or 26 years old at this company. And so at the same time, I kept on studying to get my bachelor's degree.
And what was your bachelor's degree in, out of curiosity? Was it in business?
It's business administration and entrepreneurship.
Cool.
And so that was like during the first 5 years of my career. Then I moved on to doing the same thing as in purchasing, and also in outsourcing inside the company. So we had like one of the internal services, kind of a department in a private bank. I did this for about 18 months. And I had to leave because it was too boring for me. Like the banks, there were too many, limitations and stuff like that.
So, because like, let's just to unpack this, just so you know, because at the end of the day, right, there's a lot of color in one's life before they arrive at starting their own company.
Yeah.
And if you go from insurance, which is quite highly regulated, and then you push across to banking, which is quite highly regulated,
Yeah.
one was an exhilarating experience where you picked up this fascination with business processes and the internal runnings of a business and how they go about insourcing and outsourcing. Like it's really cool.
Yeah. I think it's look, I don't know. I was always interested with strategy and stuff like that. And the first job, the insourcing part, led me also to participate in a project where we analyzed every single process of the entire company for everything that was related to signing an insurance contract, to a claim, and stuff like that. All the business thing, that's what an insurance is made of. So we went in all the agencies, not all of them, but a lot of the agencies throughout the country, interviewed people, measured exactly what they did. And so we mapped with it was a McKinsey consultant and an internal consultant we did this with. And that's from these people I learned most of the organizational stuff and the analysis and things like that. And so we had this map of the entire processes of the company, and we knew down to the second how much time every task would take. So that's our first mission that we were meant to perform, right? And so and the second thing that they didn't tell us when we started is, okay, now you map everything. So then we had the calculation of how many per agency or branch and per year, and so we have all the load, we know exactly what people do. And then he's like, okay, so given the number of people, the amount of work that's done, how can we fire 20% of the people there?
What?
And so,
no.
Yes. And then so every year, every 6 months, I had to crunch, because one of the consultants got fired. And so I had to crunch all these data by myself every 6 months. So it took me 2 months to crunch all the data, but I knew everything what was happening everywhere. And so it also kind of taught me a lot, because everybody was afraid talking to me, because I was the messenger. I mean, the bad messenger, not to fire people, but I was the spy, or like the spy in the company, knowing everything that people did. IT would give me all the numbers, so I knew exactly where people were too many, and then where we could also have efficiency gains. And because all of these decisions were strategic as well, then I got onto the board of that company as an executive. Like, I was 25 years old. People had said no one had ever been this young at this thing. And then, of course, a lot of people were talking shit about me because they knew I knew the chairman. So everybody thought it was because I knew the chairman. But anyway, so there were lots of stories. But I got so obsessed, actually, with that. And I think a lot of people, probably like you with marketing at some point. At some point in your life, and that's how you build your career. You become obsessed with something. So for me, I was obsessed about efficiency. I was obsessed about making things work better in everything I did. So it was the processes of the company. It was the purchasing part of things. It was any project that was given to me, I was trying to make it easier and more efficient. So, and then when I went,
what an amazing proving ground to build a wildly successful software outsourcing firm like yourselves. So, like that experience must have paid spades for you now.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I guess, I mean, I can't always relate exactly what I had learned there to make me who I am, right? But yeah, I guess. I think it's maybe what attracted, besides our friendship, Alan, to ask me if I could work with him.
Yep.
Because I visited him in 2008 in Hong Kong. I was bored in Switzerland. I always knew I wanted to leave, and but I never had the opportunity to do something entrepreneurial before that. And so when he asked me like, "Hey, I'm setting up a new business. Do you want to come work with me?" And knowing that he had exited his previous business for a couple hundreds of millions of dollars,
not a bad day at the office.
Like, if this guy is asking me to work with him, I can't refuse. Like, I mean, he's, why would I refuse? And it was the second time he asked me, actually, and the first time I said no. And I was like, for years I regretted it. I'm like, oh fuck, I said no to this guy. I could, have lived an even more incredible experience. And so when he offered me a second time, and it's like, dude, I'm starting this small business, an e-commerce thing in video games. I don't have much money to, because we're not making money in that business, so I can pay you a little bit. And then I didn't even ask what I was going to do. I'm like, just help me with the visa. And 3 months later, I had my luggage. I was in Hong Kong. I had sold everything I had in Switzerland, and then I landed in Hong Kong. And that's what we worked on for the next 18 months, I would say.
Wow.
And that's when we decided to move parts of the operations that we had in Hong Kong, so customer service people, and we had a bunch of developers in India. We moved to the Philippines because of the skills. The English was a lot better than in Hong Kong, and the cost was also lower than what we had in Hong Kong. So the value for money was much better. So we didn't go there for charitable reasons and because we wanted to change the world and stuff like that. We just had a business we needed to run, and we had to service our clients better with the money that we had available, right? So, but then we discovered the beauty of the Philippines and the people and so on. And that e-commerce business wasn't doing so well. So at some point...
So what were you selling, out of curiosity?
Oh, we were selling and buying game accounts for World of Warcraft, stuff like that. It was a bit of a gray area, right? But then the industry changed because the game editors were like, hey, why don't we capture that for ourselves instead of having third parties doing it, right? So then we kind of died slowly. And at some point I told Alan, dude, I'm taking money from you as my salary, which was not much, but I was still taking some money out of this to live because I didn't have much money. And I was feeling bad because I'm like, I'm not delivering much value because the business is dying. And I didn't see this carrying on. So I was, at some point, I was like, so what do I do? Do I go back to Switzerland, and call it quits, And so that was not really an option I wanted to follow. And then the amazing story of Arcanys.
Here we go.
I'm exaggerating because it just happened over a pizza. So there was no business plan, no nothing. So I was like, hey, so what do we do? Business is not going great. We had a bunch of developers that we had hired for ourselves, and to maintain the e-commerce platform. And then we had another bunch of friends, mostly friends of Alan, who asked us to help them with devs. So it was maybe one or two or something like that.
Is it just like a .NET or like what type of devs? Like PHP?
Yeah, it was .NET devs because at the time we had the .NET storefront for the e-commerce stuff, and our partners were, I think, using .NET guys or maybe Java guys. I can't remember. But so we had this, and I was like, so what do we do? And Alan was like, I don't know. And we came, I don't know if it's him or me, I can't remember, but we like, so how about we do better outsourcing? Because we had been clients of outsourcing companies. It was always a pretty shitty experience from what we had. So we're like, we know how to hire devs. There's plenty of devs in the Philippines. They're pretty good. Why don't we do this? And
so basically, So basically,
That's
what you're saying is you guys didn't quite get where you wanted with ecom, but what you figured out in the process was how to hire devs effectively. And
yeah,
I
or
think what
people in general. Yeah,
oh yeah, absolutely. And this is where I'm really curious because I think this is where a lot of people are going to be interested on this episode. Like, can you unpack your experiences working with these outsourcing companies? And what did you learn through those processes? Like what were you so frustrated about when
yeah.
you were going through it? Because obviously you were trying to build the store, you were trying to hire devs, you've been burned, blah blah blah. Like just tell me about that.
Well, I think the outsourcing industry has evolved a lot over the years. But 13 years ago, it was mostly Indian companies who were kind of not very honest in the way they were doing stuff because they were hiring people, and then when you reach out to them like, hey, I need two devs, whatever, and they would place their A team for you for about a month. Like when you hire the guys, super nice. You have Nitish and someone else, and then suddenly the same Nitish and whatever else, suddenly their quality would drop one day, but it's still the same person. You'd never see them on camera. You just talk to them through a chat and stuff, and then actually what they were doing is they would change people all the time without telling you, and charging you, I mean, ongoing more money, of course, over the years. And they were delivering a really shitty outsourcing experience. The management practices were probably not as elaborated as today. Remote work was maybe just 10 years old, and
Yeah.
so it was a nascent industry, and also there were so many cultural differences, like so we weren't trained for that. We just tried to do whatever. We were so inexperienced with these guys at this level. When I was working with the insurance industry, for example, we had like hundreds of people who were working for us. They were on site in Switzerland, probably costing tens of thousands of bucks a month, but it was super high level things for high level companies, but we're not Fortune 500 and stuff like that. So I had seen how it was well managed. I had seen how it was badly managed. And the same thing with outsourcing in China and India and stuff. So we're like, oh, fuck that. We want to make this, but a lot better. We called it between us outsourcing 2.0, like,
Yeah.
and that's what we tried to do, but we kind of sucked at the start. Like we were pretty bad.
But don't we all? But like I think that's what's cool though, right? Is the fact that you can acknowledge that you sucked at the start, but then you've gotten to a point where you're clearly one of the best in the entire, like in the mecca of outsourcing. So like, you claim, no, but think of it this way, right? Like I know I've seen the clutch reviews, like they're gnarly for Arcanys. Like, and wasn't it, I think you were ranked number one in clutch, or there's a few different benchmarks and scorecards that I've seen over the years for Arcanys, and it's been number one in 2019, in 2021, in 2022. I think it was only this year that you dropped off like the number one
we didn't have.
position.
I didn't ask reviews for my clients for a while, and so we dropped in the rankings because we didn't take care of that, right? And
Yeah.
we're fixing this. But yeah, I mean, our clients are happy. We have an NPS score of like 81 or something, and so I was kind of surprised when I was measuring the stuff. But so yeah, I think we're. I mean, I don't know if we're the best, but our clients are happy, and that's what matters. Yeah.
100%. I think that's the only way you can measure if you are the best or not. If your clients are speaking highly of you, are you receiving referrals? What sort of doors are they opening for you? That's when you know you're doing amazing things as a services business. So after experiencing, the highs and lows of working, with these Indian outsourcing companies, and obviously Alan's worked with Chinese, and there's all different outsourcing companies. You arrived at the Philippines and you thought, hang on, these people are magnificent. This is a great work culture. We could start up Arcanys. We could do this really, really well. And you began at Arcanys with BPO work. Was it always software though? Because I have a funny feeling. Also, everyone, I've been looking at the Google AdWords account that it wasn't just um
Yeah.
it wasn't just software dev
Yeah.
work, was it? Like you've tried a few things.
Yeah, we did customer service or technical service stuff because we had all these people from the e-commerce stuff. We had a lot, like 35 or 40 customer service agents. And as the business of it was called Toonstorm was going down, we didn't want to fire people. We wanted to try to find them, new projects and stuff. So but what we realized is to grow a business with customer service, it's harder if you like a boutique kind of stuff. If you want to do mass stuff, like with thousands of people, then you can grow that, and it's dirt cheap and it's just churn. But if you want to create a great work culture with people who stay and something where it's not like thousands of people that you're just who are just numbers, then software development was better because the margins are higher as well, and allows us to create a better company that is maybe lasting longer and is more knowledge involved. There's more technology because all the customer stuff. Okay, there's been years they're saying, oh, AI is going to take the jobs and stuff, but I think it's really coming now for software engineers. Yes, AI will probably increase the productivity of people a lot. It might reduce a little bit the demand, but we still need to have people who are trained as engineers to talk to computers, to understand what code is, and so on. It's not like you can just take someone off the street and give them ChatGPT and then build me a software, right? That's not how it works.
And that would be awesome for all those budding software founders, but sadly, there is a barrier to entry.
There is, right? And so yeah.
And like, I think that's something that we're all going to have to grapple with AI. That AI does your legwork, but it doesn't do your strategy. It doesn't develop your plan to develop your product.
It can help.
It helps
the right questions, and I use it every day, and I think it's super useful to be smarter.
Yeah,
but it's not going to do the work for you. Yeah.
100%. And I guess like now we talk about like Arcanys 2.0 or outsourcing 2.0. When you had that conversation with Alan that night over a pizza and a beer, like what did you strive to create when you built out Arcanys? Like obviously a revenue stream that worked. Let's not joke about that.
Yeah.
But what did you really want to create? Like what were you thinking at that moment?
So the first thing I think we talked about, maybe that night or maybe later, I don't know. But I think our dream was to create a technology company in a way. And so the way to do this for us was to create Arcanys. And then pretty quickly, it became, okay, we have devs. We help companies build their products and stuff like that. And down the road, because this is not a technology company per se, we created first Arcanys Labs, that now is Arcanys Ventures, where we invest in startups that we find interesting, both in the team that's running them and the product or the service they're selling, and their culture and their values, right? And so for us, that's how we kind of create or own partially technology companies that we fuel, because we fuel the companies with our team members every year, right? So that's kind of like a indirect way of creating a technology company.
Yeah, it's almost like we wanted to create a tech company by owning 10% of 10 other companies. You know what I mean? That's what's so cool about your unique model. And I think for those who are listening today, and if you are in the process of considering some form of dedicated a dedicated development team, or if you're looking for software developers, or if you're looking to scale your product, one of the things which is unique about Arcanys is their ventures arm, which has some of the best performing small to medium sized like tech startups across the world, mostly Australia. Are most of your investments in the Australian market?
Well, yeah, I mean, maybe half of them, and then the rest is in Europe or Switzerland. Yeah.
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 Yeah. Because I guess what this tells you about the way Fred operates, guys, is that with the way you do things, Fred, it's so obvious that you can only make Arcanys Ventures work if and only if your tech team has their shit together.
Yeah.
And what's more compelling about this as well is like if you're a founder and you're looking for investment, and then you have someone like Fred knock on your door and go, "Hey, I know you're looking for investment. You're going to be using the money to build your product instead of money to pay for someone to do the development. We can provide our tip of the spear developers to work inside your business." Now, a lot of developers, when they first hear that, will think, not developers, a lot of SaaS founders, when they first hear that, they think, oh, they're just going to fill my team with shitty developers. But that's not a way you would get a return on your money, is it? Like, you need to actually have your very best team members in the startups which you've got a deep invested interest in. Otherwise, you're not going to get any money back.
Yeah, because it's 100% success fee, right? If we suck, we don't get paid, and we lose our money that we could put our devs elsewhere and being paid for that, right? So we do this when we believe in the team. We do this when we know we can actually make a difference for that company. Because if we can't make a difference, then there's no reason for us to come in. And so we only get paid if we succeed, right? And because it's a significant part of our business, we want to make sure that that we succeed. We didn't get paid yet so much in terms of the exits. We did because it's only been 5 years or 6 years that we slowly started doing this, and it has been accelerating recently. So we had one exit that was a good return on the small duration that we had, but we are in for the long run. We're not like looking at making a quick exit after 1 year and say, hey, we want our money back and stuff like that. So we want to help build the business as an investment. We want to help companies raise more money at a higher valuation because they are doing stuff that's working and creating products that people love, and getting more customers, maybe more investment and things like that. And we might even keep on investing in succeeding rounds if we believe in that story and double down, right? And in some cases, founders just start paying our team instead of getting it for free. I mean, not for free, it's for equity, but not, I mean, easing the cash flow, I'd say. And then become clients and great partners that we keep on helping just anyone else we're working with.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, I just want to touch base on the size of your team, because I think, like any professional services business, like often businesses try to scale, they go from like a 1-person show and then they turn into like a 3-person show, and then it's unmanageable, and then they try and go to an 8 and then they shrink and all that sort of crazy stuff. And this could be a lot like a software team in many sense, because it's a professional service happening internally inside of an organization. How many developers do you have inside the Arcanys fabric now? Total number?
280, maybe, something like that.
Okay, so I think what's evident here is that you've got 280 developers, and they're all happy, and they're all engaged, and they're all moving along. You probably
99% based on the survey, something like that.
Yeah. 99% is practically all the developers. According
it's not
to
all, but it's not far.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Like, I want to know, like, how in the world did you scale like that and keep everybody engaged and involved? Because I'm sure there's going to be a technical founder here wanting to know, it's like, how did you build such a big software team? This is amazing. Like, how did you do it? How do things not slip through the cracks?
Well, the first thing is, if you look at the day-to-day stuff, it's mostly our clients managing their own team, right? So
Business model. Good.
right. So that's the thing. And we take care of all the HR stuff. So all the feedback, the coaching, the training, obviously the hiring and all that stuff. We do that. But the day-to-day tasks and the project itself is mostly managed by our clients. We have some clients for which we have senior European architects who are doing the CTO, if you want, for them. But it's like maybe 20% of the projects that we have. The rest is managed by the client. So it kind of makes our scaling a little bit easier because of that, right? So, but we had to change a few times the structure of the management, if you want, when as you said, there are stages, right? And so we went through, I don't know, 3-4 stages of growth where we kind of had to stop for a sec, regroup, rearrange how the management was done, and then okay, now we can keep on growing because we've removed the pains. And so the stage we're at now is the operations are really running smoothly, but it's all the support functions that we had really underinvested in at many levels. So accounting is a lot. People are working too much, so we have to help them. Even sales and marketing. I mean, in sales, I've been alone for many years. I mean, until this year. So now we've hired another person to do that. In the marketing, we also grew, and then we're working with you and another agency as well that help us like do a lot more stuff than we had been able to do just by ourselves in the past. So that's what we've been investing in a lot in the last year, in the 8-9 months. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And it has been really interesting to see how things have evolved over the past 6 months with you guys. When we got involved, we never saw any form of demand generation or lead generation happen off Facebook. Like, I've never been targeted by an ad. The first time I heard of you guys, despite like this the weight the Arcanys name has in the Philippines BPO circuit, you never heard of it in Australia. You jump on the website, you think, oh, who are these people? But it was only until you got in contact with me, and then we started peeling back the layers on how magnificent Arcanys is. Made me realize, oh shit, like this is an incredible organization that values not only doing amazing work for great clients, but it's one of these businesses that thinks about the holistic development of the individual too. And I think, Fred, like, if you want to, feel free to talk about like a little thing you've created on your Arcanys campus, which I know you're very proud about. So you can talk to us all about. Fred, everybody, has actually created a CrossFit gym for all the Arcanite employees on the campus. And I think this is because of Fred's love of health and fitness and all that sort of jazz. So give us a bit of a background into the health and fitness journey and how you believe, embedding this culture of like company sports and activities and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
How that ends up creating amazing workplace results.
Yeah. So besides the processes, there's another obsession that I have is with CrossFit, right? So, and
you're going to compete in the games? You're going to do it?
No, I know. I started way too late for that stuff, and I wish I could spend like 5 hours in the gym every day, but I can't. But so we've created a CrossFit affiliated CrossFit gym in Cebu for ourselves, for our employees, and soon for the public. So we just opened like 2 weeks ago for our employees. We're learning how to run the classes and stuff. We've hired 2 senior coaches from France that we've relocated to the Philippines. We've got one of the fittest girls in the Philippines last year that has joined us. So she's also a great athlete. And this has started really as something as a personal journey, right? When I was younger, I had like plenty of issues, and so sports really helped me with that, and so that's why I put such an emphasis on health and fitness as a way to blossom as a person, to grow as a person, and also, you know, teaching you good values and things like that, especially in CrossFit, because it's kind of team based, although it's not. But you do this, you're in this together, and I think it creates great friendships and things like that. So I started with health and fitness, and then the first person I tried to convince was Alan, because it was pretty unhealthy when I joined him in Hong Kong, but he didn't listen to me for many years, trying to avoid going to the gym and telling me all the reasons why he shouldn't work out more than twice a week or whatever. And then also nutrition, because I was obese. When I was younger, I tried to also learn about, you know, proper nutrition. I'm not perfect, but I've tried, and so I saw the effect on myself, and then I started bringing this in the company, because in the Philippines, people are pretty unhealthy. They don't move much. They eat really like crappy stuff, and it bothered me. It bothers me to see people wasting their potential and their health by not knowing. And so we created these Wednesday classes where I would nag people with stuff, with information about health, about fitness, trying to move. And then so you can go only so far when you start telling stuff to people and how to do things. You have to show them, right? And so I brought a bunch of people in Spartan races with me.
Wow.
And so I think that's what really started, because a bunch of people started liking it, and the goal was to beat Fred, you know. And so the first few ones, they weren't able to beat me, and thanks, they didn't beat me the first time, but after that they improved, and now probably they're like a crap ton faster than I am in running, or better at CrossFit or whatever. But but it started, and then it, you know, people liked it, and then they kept going on. And then the last thing that we did with Alan was, so first we created a kitchen in the office, trying to serve healthy meals, so people, it's free, and then they eat better, and just showing them, you know, like, it's healthy food is not disgusting. It can be really nice. So we had an Australian chef actually doing the menu, and
insane.
Yeah, because he was a guy owning a restaurant. We became friends, and then when we started the kitchen, we're like, hey Steve, why don't you help us? And so the food, and then we started doing like yoga and Zumba yoga classes in the office. And recently, after traveling a lot around the world, and going to various CrossFit boxes, every time we came back here, I'm like, I think we could do something to improve the landscape of CrossFit in Cebu.
Wow.
And so I tried to convince Alan about this, and very quickly we're like, okay, let's do this. Let's start building a place. So we had to find a place and build it, and now we're open.
How long did it take you to get Alan off the couch and into a CrossFit gym?
So in Hong Kong, I started bringing him to fitness first a few times, but he didn't like it, and I understand why. The gym is, you know, can be intimidating, and it's not that fun, you know. It's just working. But I have a good friend whom I met in Bali years ago, and he got into CrossFit, and I saw the journey he had and how he's been transformed, like physically. And one day he's like, hey, one of the coaches in Bali moved to the Philippines. Go to that box and try it out, because I've been telling him to try it out for years, and I was scared because CrossFit has a bad reputation, which is not true, but that's what it is. And I don't want to get injured and stuff, so I didn't go. And finally I went. I found it it was hard, but I'm like, holy crap, that's it, you know, because I was bored at the gym. I needed something else. And I went once or twice, and then I told Alan, I think you should try it out. And then he came, and I think almost immediately he's like, okay, that's it. That's what I'm going to do.
What? It only took him one class.
And then we both got obsessed with CrossFit, and that's how we Yeah, and he's better than me in many aspects in CrossFit now because he's so dedicated and he's super into it. So
that is actually so funny. I didn't realize it was only one class. So it's often it's really a case of like your own internal product market fit.
oh yeah,
right? Yeah, it's just like, oh, you come to the gym, come for a run, let's go bike riding, let's go swimming, let's go this, and then all of a sudden, cross country skiing becomes their new addiction. And
yeah,
know
and
what?
I think the reason for Alan and also me is because there's constant learning and you're pushing your
Yep.
boundaries all the time. And so for him, he never told me that, but I'm sure it's that. Is like he realized that I'm gonna learn new things my whole life doing CrossFit because it's so complex. And but you also can measure it, and there's a lot of strategy in there as well. So I think it's typically made for him. Like he loves it, and he's strategizing all the time. He's calculating everything. When I'm asking, I'm like, oh, how? He's like, yeah, calculation and stuff. And you're like, yeah, okay, of course, yeah. Yeah. So that's the thing for him. There's math, there's learning, and so that's for
Wow. I can't believe that. That's amazing. So, like, I think you would have to be the only BPO with their own dedicated CrossFit gym in the Philippines. That has to be. I think that's something you can claim.
probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I mean, we're probably not the only ones who have a gym or something like of that sort, but a CrossFit for sure. Yeah.
CrossFit, yeah, it's pretty amazing. Like the way you look at like the holistic development of the individual at Arcanys, and I think it's so cool to see that developers come to you not completely junior because again you've got a policy that you really want tip of the spear developers inside your organization. They come in as really quality mid-level developers. They become someone great, and at the end of their journey they don't start out as they don't end up as just a better developer. They end up as a better person. They understand nutrition, they
Hopefully.
understand sleep, they understand diet, they understand working out. They may leave Arcanys, they then move to greener pastures across in Western countries and pick up amazing job opportunities. Like, how does that feel? Like, you're really making a difference, Fred, if you think of it that way.
Well, we don't. I don't know. As Swiss people, I don't know how it is in other countries, but we're very, we come from a Reformed or Protestant kind of background, and it's very. I don't know I don't know how to say it. It's very sober. So it's about doing stuff, working. We don't celebrate much. We should do that more. I mean, I think we're not good at that. And we just do stuff we believe in, and it's true. It's nice when you see people, growing and stuff like that. And there's a bunch of people that we see them change quite a lot, and it's impressive. And it's not pride, because I'm just happy for them, and so yeah, that's pretty much it. There's one area where we know we have to improve is mental health. And we've seen this during COVID, and we can't do everything at the same time. But that's kind of the next. I think the next chapter for us is to at least for me on the radar is to help more with mental health.
Yeah, it is a tough one. I think professional services businesses, and it's not just dedicated outsourcing shops like yourself. Like it's like the accountants of the world, anyone that's in B2B professional services. It is tough because there's huge deadlines. The stakes are high a lot of the time. So many competing priorities, many clients wanting your attention at any given time. I think mental health is one of those things that it's getting big in Australia. I'm not sure what it's like in the Philippines or in Switzerland or any of those other countries, but it's really gaining momentum. And the more we know about it, the better it's going to be for people to really enjoy work. Have you got any initiatives on the cards that you're planning to roll out with Arcanys at this point?
So we started in June, working a lot more on the diversity and inclusion policies and stuff like that, because we know we can do that better. And that was triggered by an article that I've been invited to write in Tatler about my own experience as a part of the LGBT community, and talk about my journey. And I'm like, okay, it's the month of June. I'm talking about this. And I just reflected on my journey, and I'm like, oh shit, we should do something for the company too. You know, and because I've been lucky to be able to go through that and come out of this, because it was not always easy, right? Okay, and so why don't we try to offer this to people, like they feel comfortable at work? Because when I started working, I was in the closet, I was afraid, I didn't know how people would judge me and stuff, especially in Switzerland, where it was pretty conservative, especially in the financial services industry. So I don't want people at Arcanys to experience the same stuff. I want them to come as they are at work, and just be themselves, and not be afraid. And because if one thing goes well, then the other goes well. It's this virtuous circle, and so we want to try to ignite that spark, if you want. And so whether it could be by doing sports, or which gives a lot of confidence, or it could be feeling a part of something, or feeling like you can bring yourself completely at work and with your team members, knowing that you're safe. And so that's kind of like I think that's kind of like the next thing I want to do.
Yeah, man, like that's a real brave step, and good on you for being a champion of diversity and inclusion in your business, because that is such a tough gig. Like, I can only say this coming from being a heterosexual male, obviously with a beautiful wife who works inside the agency, who you've met, luckily, Fred. And I'm a blessed man, but like your journey, and being, as you said, like closeted in the financial services, which is very much a bro culture in many ways, and being able to wrestle with that. And now obviously you've been able to build this incredible, like wildly successful software development business. And let now you've got that opportunity and that position of privilege and responsibility to really champion for people to be themselves at work, and be comfortable and knowing that they're going to be accepted being themselves at work. Like, wow, that's crazy. So, wow, I don't even know where to go on this topic. Like, I'm here for a marketing and business podcast, man.
Yeah, no, but it's been great. So many things I didn't expect talking about. So I think you asked great questions, and so yeah.
I
I was even reflecting on what I said. Is like, actually, you don't realize how much power you have to change other people's lives until you talk about it. Because for me, like before the Tata article, I just do my thing and I do what I think is great. But it's just like, and then you have other people looking at, oh, what you've done is amazing because of this and this and that. And you're like, at the beginning, you're like, well, we just did what you think is right. And then, which is the case anyway. But then you realize, but I'm actually able to influence people's lives in a good way. And it's actually super motivating to hear that feedback, and like, oh shit, I can do more. Actually, I could do more stuff, and so it's a great feeling to realize that, and like, okay, I should do more.
Look, Fred, and it's really interesting, Fred, that like at Owen Denny, like I'm really proud of the clients that we get to work with, in the sense that if I can't, like, this is just a rule that I have, and this is a weird rule. I'm not sure if I've ever disclosed this on the internet, but if I can't look up to the client as either a mentor or someone who I'd aspire to be like, or aspire to have many qualities like in the next 5 to 10 years, it's not the right client for us. And I see the work that you do as a leader in the sales and marketing team, as a co-founder, as a man who's really understood this whole engagement and process piece to building out a massive company. Like it really is a monster. Like 280 devs is like how many total staff? Isn't it nearly 400 now?
No, maybe at the end of the year we're like maybe 320, 330, something like that.
Like it's not a trivial business that you've built, and like you've done some amazing work. And I think that for those out there who feel like they're on they're a fringe minority in the society and stuff like that, like you look up to someone like Fred who has actually gone through it. And for those who feel like they're not part of the fold and they may not feel like they fit in like Fred has, like what sort of advice would you give them?
Maybe it's just an illusion that you don't fit in. It's what because you're hard on yourself. You're like, people. I mean, a lot of people maybe look at themselves and are overly critical, and I used to be like that, and bashing myself for all my shortcomings, and I still do in some fashion, right? But we create these stories in our heads that are probably not true, and we feel like we're judged by all these people. But most people don't give a shit. They just see you as who you are, and yeah, you don't have friends. Not everyone's your friend, but majority of things are going well, and then it's just about realizing the value you have as a unique person. You have strengths and weaknesses, and being aware of that, and focusing on your strength, and working on your weaknesses, maybe in the background. But there's so much more than who you are attracted to, for example, or for some things you don't like about yourself. That's not what people see. They see you as human beings, and they take what's good from you. Yeah. And so but that's what it took me years to learn it, right? And to not be ashamed of being in a room or feeling like I was this imposter syndrome and stuff like that, which I still do have sometimes, but you can't eliminate it completely. It's just part of us having doubts, I guess. But sports helped me. So because the physical part is here, like you can't deny it. That's us. We are physical beings. So if you can achieve something with your body, or you see improvement with your body, and you can do this with friends and they accept you, it can help you build your confidence, which then kind of helps you in other areas of your life.
Wow, that's some amazing things to part with. Now, I am really blessed because you've spent so much time on this podcast today, and
I really enjoyed it today.
Dude, it's been awesome. It's been awesome. I'm not even going to ask you to plug Owen, Denny. It's all good. We can get that for another episode. What was that? Sorry.
No, it's true. I thought you have great questions because we didn't prepare anything, right? And
no.
I think it went
really nice. Got in there. I think that was part of the fun, because I think that whenever Fred and I have a chat, guys, it's always like a fairly natural like chemistry in the way we communicate, and it's all very flowing. And I thought that would be the best way to run this. Fred, like, it's been a true pleasure being on here. Have you got any final words to the audience?
Yeah, thank you.
Like, if you want to plug Arcanys, go for it. You can talk about what you have on offer at the minute. Like, go nuts. What do you want to say?
No, I mean, I have nothing else to add. I mean, we're just a software development company that's extending development teams. We're trying to do our best for our employees, our clients. If what I said is interesting to you and you want to reach out to me, you can do so on LinkedIn, or even simply on the Arcanys.com website. And thank you for listening this far in the episode.
Guys, thank you so much for tuning in to Open Source Growth with Frederic Joye, co-founder and head of sales and marketing at Arcanys. It's been unreal. And if you liked what you heard on this episode, feel free to smash that subscribe button on any of the podcasting platforms that you are tuning into today. I'm your host, Dean Denny. I can't even say my name right. Dean Denny, founder and director of Denny Digital, Australia's #1 SaaS marketing agency. I'll talk to y'all soon. Catch you later.